Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Football Fandemic, where we are going to be recapping the championship round. We're going to look briefly at the Super Bowl, but we're going to save some of that as we talk about coaching and we talk about this last week of games here on the Football Fandemic. You guys would not believe the technical troubles we've had trying to get started today. At least two of us have had crashes happen twice. Josh is the only one who's like working like he's supposed to. Brandon and I, our computers and our internet just keeps dropping. So if at any point in this Brandon or I leave, well, Josh has a lot of good things to say, and he'll say them to the best of his ability.
It'll be the Josh Kolancheski show.
I'll have to turn back to my college radio days.
Right. All right. Well, let's get going. We have probably some news that has happened this week with coaches. I know that we talked about a lot last week, but you know, the NFL never rests. News cycle always going, things always happening. And this last week, we've had a couple of those. First of all, I want to just start by saying the thing we talked about last time, it happened. Call us all Nostradamus, right? Because we said, wouldn't it be weird if like the Jaguars fired Trent Baalke and then the Bucks OC put his hat back in the ring, and then like not even like 2 hours later, that happened.
Yep.
And I think Josh said it. He said that would be a major indictment on Trent Baalke if that were to happen. And guess what? Major indictment, right?
Yeah, it certainly was. And it happened like the day after, and the whole like lead up even after the Baalke thing is weird. You could turn this into like a Lifetime movie or even like send it to like some Oscar bait movie production company, and they probably would try to get it because you've got so much drama here. You've got, you know, the power struggle between Liam Cohen and Trent Baalke that apparently happened during this whole interview process, because he apparently interviewed really well, but just didn't want to work with Trent Baalke. So Trent Baalke stays on as the general manager for a moment. Liam Cohen goes back to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay says, hey, we're going to give you the most expensive coordinator contract in NFL history if you don't take any other interviews for the rest of this coaching cycle. So Cohen, in principle and verbally or handshake deals, agrees to that. However, later that day, Baalke gets fired, and the next day, all of a sudden, reports are starting to come in that Liam Cohen is going to become the next coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. But he did it like under the cover of night, and like they needed to do all of this quick, so the Buccaneers couldn't reach him. They tried calling him. He told he told Todd Bowles that he was at a doctor's appointment for one of his kids. He was the only one that was able to get a hold of Liam Cohen. So he kind of did them dirty. And then you also have a little bit more drama on the Jaguars side of things because they wanted to do this quickly and they didn't want anybody to know about it. So, but they had not yet fulfilled the Rooney Rule. So they had to bring in Patrick Graham, a defensive coordinator, to come interview for that. But they also couldn't let him know that like Liam Cohen was going to be basically be the guy to get the job. So they couldn't let reports that Cohen was going back to Jacksonville start to leak out until after Patrick Graham had already interviewed. Because if Patrick Graham hears that, he's not going to be like the token minority guy,
which he was,
needed for the minority for the Rooney Rule. So they do that. And then Liam Cohen is in Jacksonville. He gets signed to become the new head coach there, and kind of just like a really crazy set of circumstances all leading to this. And then his press conference, by the way, was like, I don't know if you guys saw any of it, or at least like the weird with his eyebrows were moving all over the place. It was like Michael Scott from The Office. Like that's what it
Adam
was.
Gase 2.0.
Yeah. I mean, so maybe he made Baker Mayfield a 40 touchdown per like season passer. Like he was able to do good things with that offense, but it was just a whirlwind to get there. And I don't know if that those inauspicious beginnings will kind of lead to something. I don't know if it'll be fruitful for Jacksonville.
Man, I don't know that it'll, like you said, will it be fruitful for Jacksonville? But if he can bring to Jacksonville what he needs to, if the Texans continue to like try and get better. I know they kind of regressed, I felt like, a little bit this last year from the year before, as far as like their play aggressiveness and their just confidence and stuff. But maybe the AFC South is going to get tougher again. It sure wasn't this last year. Titans, Jags, Colts, none of those were like really anything to speak of.
Even the Texans like really struggled through a major part of their schedule too. So this is a winnable division, especially if CJ Stroud has a year like he had this year moving forward.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, if he gets, with Brian Thomas, who's his other receiver there?
They in Jacksonville they have Gabe Davis, they have Christian Kirk. Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk both got injured in the middle of this season though, and then they have Evan Ingram as their tight end. So he's got weapons. They've got stuff there. I think they need to like refurnish that offensive line, and the offense can be in a really good position moving forward.
So AFC South gets a little bit of drama from the NFC South. The whole thing, just a crazy Lifetime movie we will see here in a year or so. But there were other hirings. I think the Raiders made a big move that caught me off guard. I did not expect Pete Carroll to be the next coach of the Raiders. How do you think that happened?
I mean, I guess it's through connections to Tom Brady, maybe. I don't really know, because Tom Brady is obviously the guy calling the shots, and they wanted Ben Johnson. Like, he was the guy that wanted Ben Johnson, even though he wouldn't talk about it on the broadcast at all. Didn't in the divisional round, didn't say anything about Ben Johnson. But yeah, I don't know how he gets there. But there's kind of this weird pipeline of Seahawks that have gone to the Raiders. Like I guess it's one. It's Marshawn Lynch, who was one. The one that I can think of. I guess Jerry Rice went from the Raiders to the Seahawks. So
who did? Oh, I just lost his name. The first guy who left from the Legion of Boom. What was his name?
Richard Sherman went to, or he wasn't the first guy I got. Well,
but that's who I was thinking of. Where did he go?
He went to San Francisco.
That's right. San Francisco. Yeah.
So Bay Area, but I guess Vegas isn't in. I mean, the Raiders aren't in the Bay Area anymore.
Not anymore.
But I mean, he's a successful head coach, and I think he is the first head coach in NFL history now to have 4 different head coaching positions throughout the course of his career. But because before he was at USC, he was the head coach for the Patriots, and then there was one other team that I think he was maybe the Jets. I don't know, but he'll now have a chance to try and find success with Vegas. The problem that I think that's a kind of longer rebuilding process, and Pete Carroll's 73 years old, so he's older. I don't know how much. Like, we don't know how much time he has left in the NFL, or how much time he wants to spend in the NFL. But it's going to be a rebuilding process. He did that in Seattle. He took Matt Hasselbeck and Seneca Wallace, I think, to a playoff game, albeit they were 7-9, but they won a playoff game in his first season as head coach as the Seahawks before Russell Wilson came in and started being their franchise quarterback. Charlie Whitehurst was the other quarterback that went 7-9. That helped them go 7-9, and they beat the Rams with Whitehurst in a win and in for the NFC West divisional title that year.
Man, and then there was like a long time where it was just the Seahawks winning there. The 12th man, they were so loud. They were always winning. And then it fell apart a little bit, although Geno Smith has not been bad. Oh, I heard this. Somebody said, with Pete Carroll being there, maybe there's a way Geno Smith gets traded to the Raiders. Do you think that has any legs?
I didn't hear the Geno Smith rumor. The one I heard was something I think is not going to happen, of Russell Wilson being a Raider. We know he's not been signed in Pittsburgh. They obviously have a connection. They went to a pair of Super Bowls together. I don't think they left on the greatest of terms. Maybe they went their separate ways, realized the dating pool was better together than with the other people that were out there, and they reunite. But I'm not sure what's happened since their departure in their relationship.
You can't manufacture love like that, though. I mean, you can't just you can't make it happen. If the magic's not there, it's not gonna,
Right.
the relationship is gonna fail again, and the marriage will crumble for Wilson and Carroll. But I mean, there are options out there. Kirk Cousins probably going to be an option. Sam Darnold an option. And then apparently Matthew Stafford, the Rams aren't sure whether or not they're going to bring him back, which I think it is a no-brainer. They should bring him back. But
Aaron Rodgers, an option.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah, if he doesn't
Can you
want
imagine Devontae Adams was with the Raiders? He goes to the Jets, and then Aaron Rodgers leaves and goes to the Raiders.
The Raiders.
And they're still split.
Derek Carr, probably an option.
Yeah.
If he wants to go back and play there.
To be fair, Devontae never sold his place in Vegas. He's still got it, and it still has Taco Bell right there inside.
But can you imagine, like, first of all, what would have to happen for that to happen? And then secondly, how would the fans even take that? It's like, oh yeah, you wanted out. You're just following Rodgers around. I don't know that it would be. First of all, we don't even know that Rodgers is like a serious contender there, but.
Yeah.
Well, he wouldn't even be the receiver that spurned them the most. It would be that title still belongs to Antonio Brown, who was with them throughout training camp and then forced his release before the start of the season. All of which was caught on Hard Knocks that offseason, the HBO series.
Man, I never saw that one. What happened?
There was like something with his, like he wanted to do a certain helmet. This was like the beginning of the end, I think, for Antonio Brown. Like he wanted to do something with his helmet. He wanted his own custom helmet that the NFL had now outlawed. Raiders really couldn't do anything about that. And I think it was just an excuse to try and get traded. But he eventually gets released on the series and he posts a video on social media of himself getting the call at his house because he was just not going to practices anymore, and he runs around outside his backyard like a little kid saying, "I'm free."
Did he take his shirt off?
He did take his shirt off. Yep, he did that too.
Also, like a little kid. Look at
Sounds
that.
like Antonio Brown.
We do have the first coaching candidate for 2026, head coaching candidate. Mike McCarthy has pulled his name from coaching this upcoming NFL season, looking to be a hotter prospect come 2026.
Do you think that will actually happen?
He's done it once before and ended up in Dallas.
Oh, we didn't talk about who did end up in Dallas.
No one knows. Who is
No.
this guy?
No, we do know, right?
That's the point. Who is this guy?
He's the guy who's going to do what his dad could never do, evidently, according to Jerry Jones, right? Josh was telling me the story before the podcast.
Yeah, Brian Schottenheimer. I think he was their offensive coordinator, but he wasn't calling plays. It was Mike McCarthy after Kellen Moore left. But Brian Schottenheimer is the son of Marty Schottenheimer, who NFL legend but never won a Super Bowl. And Jerry Jones, they had this like super long press conference that it was like when a president goes to like the Rose Garden, has like one of those. That's like the setup.
Day. Yeah.
The red carpet was set up. Everything. They had Jerry Jones. They had Stephen Jones. They had everybody talking. They had the general manager. They had obviously the new head coach. And Jerry Jones said that when he gave Brian Schottenheimer the news that he was going to be promoted to take the spot, that he called his mom. Brian Schottenheimer called his mom. Marty Schottenheimer has passed away, has been gone for a little bit. And he told his mom that he was going to do what like Matthew said, do what his dad never could. He was going to fulfill that dynasty. And Jerry Jones was like, this first one will be for Marty Schottenheimer.
The first one.
So trying to tug at the heartstrings a little bit, trying to get some of the what is it? There's pathos, ethos. There, what would that be? The pathos logo? Yeah. So trying to get that because the hiring was a little bit questionable. Schottenheimer was
underwhelming.
Right. He was a guy that was a hot head coaching candidate because he helped Mark Sanchez lead the Jets to 2 AFC championship games when he was an offensive coordinator in New York. That was 15 years ago. And now he's 51.
Wow.
So it's not like one of these young hot shot offensive coordinators that's the son of an NFL legend. It's not like Kyle Shanahan. This is Brian Schottenheimer, who is probably has, I don't know, but probably has a kid that would be about the same age as some of these younger hot shot guys.
Oh man. And I do love how Jerry Jones says this first one, implying there will be many. It's like Colts Jim Irsay when he's like, I expect multiple Super Bowl wins this decade. And he said that like 8-9 years ago. Getting close. Come on, Jim. Not a lot of time left, and I don't see 2 happening in the next 2 years.
Yeah. It'll be
Well,
interesting.
Jerry, just keep dreaming, I guess. We'll see. Any other coaching stuff happen?
Did the Saints hire someone, or they're close to hiring someone?
The Saints, I think, are probably going to go Kellen Moore, the Eagles' offensive coordinator. But I don't think
They're
they.
just
I think
waiting.
they're waiting for the interview to be able to interview him in person until after the Super Bowl. That could change, but they're the only team without one. In defensive coordinator news, former Bears head coach Matt Eberflus is joining Brian Schottenheimer's staff in Dallas. And then former Saints head coach Dennis Allen is joining the Bears staff under head coach Ben Johnson. He'll be the defensive coordinator there. They also hired a 28-year-old offensive coordinator named Declan Doyle. So apparently he at one point was one of the youngest assistant coaches in the NFL. I would assume that is close to the same case, because 28 and being an offensive coordinator of a storied franchise is certainly a jump up. Now, I think Ben Johnson's still calling plays, so maybe it's more of like a figurehead sort of position, and helping more as like a positional coach. But he's going to be there, and it'll be interesting. And they also have Press Taylor, the former Jaguars offensive coordinator, as their pass game coordinator.
So they're getting it lined out. Bears trying to make a step forward in that NFC North that is so strong. We'll see if that actually happens or not with Ben Johnson leading. You say it will?
It won't.
I was like, that is rare optimism from Brandon, but I was mistaken.
There is no optimism
the same
here.
old pessimism that he always had.
Same old facts.
Same old
I don't
facts.
make the rules.
Oh, okay.
My prayers have been answered. Yes.
I think that's all I know about coaching wise.
Yeah,
and I didn't even know about some of those defensive coordinators. So,
yeah.
Just a quick update on the Saints. Some beat reporters are reporting that the Saints are no longer accepting new interviews for their head coaching position, and they've narrowed it down to either Kellen Moore or Mike Kafka to be their next head coach.
Kafka, who is the Giants offensive coordinator. Everybody wants him.
Everybody loves what that Giants offense did this last year. It was like, what would you call it? Good against the Colts?
Yeah,
that was the one game.
They showed Gail Benson the film from that week 16 game, whatever it was, and she was like, "That's the guy that we need." Who's calling plays there?
Look how he did that, man! What, they put up 40-some points and all those yards. Oh, this is our guy,
scoring at will. And it's also the Pro Bowl week, so I don't know if there's like any stuff going on there. Like the Pro Bowl is like
they've
just
switched to the games, right? It's no longer the same Pro Bowl. Do they even play a game? Is it like touch now or flag?
Yeah, I think it's flag, but there's like skills. Like
the skills thing is what I see all the time. It's like, oh, we're going to throw this ball through, hoops and jump up and not get hit by this and whatever. I still haven't watched one of those. Have you either of you?
I watched it live once. Most of the time, if I'm being honest, I just catch the YouTube short highlight and watch like the 8-minute version.
Yeah.
I used to watch the NFL Network when they had like those older skills competitions during the off season. They would show from like 2000, 2001, like, and you'd see like Brett Favre in a deep throw competition, throwing the ball like 75 yards.
I guess Harbaugh.
Cool. Maybe it's just like the nostalgic factor. But like those, I feel like hit the heartstrings a little bit differently than these, even though some of the competitions are the same. But the conference that wins isn't necessarily the conference that wins the flag football game that ends everything. So you get like different, if your player wins, if the AFC's player wins the accuracy competition, the AFC gets a certain amount of points, and so on throughout the week. And then you get some points depending on how many points you score, I think, in the flag football game. And then whoever has the most accumulated points between the skills competition and the flag football game ends up winning the whole thing. So it's a very convoluted sort of thing now. But I mean, nobody's going to go all out in the Pro Bowl anymore. Like if it was played an actual football game. So
was there ever, I'm trying to remember if there was ever a Pro Bowl game where people like really played hard, because like even at the end, it was just such a joke. These people, you're like, oh, this guy was selected to so many Pro Bowls, but then you look at what the Pro Bowl was, and it was like, dude's like kind of running, everybody's kind of hitting him a little bit, and he's just kind of running through everybody. Nobody's really tackling. The dude gets a touchdown, and you're like,
how many Hail Marys can you throw in a single game?
Yeah.
Right? Always go for it on fourth down. There was one guy a couple of years ago, Josh Haupt could tell you more about it. He was at the time a Redskins player, just completely bodied someone on the field. He was a defensive player.
I was like, what are you doing?
Sean Taylor, Sean Taylor, nearly decapitated a punter who was running on a fake punt in the Pro Bowl. He nearly so that's poor
one
punter.
Play. There was
play of realness.
Yeah, and I'll say this for your algorithm, Matthew. Last week, Peyton Manning released a video of him watching himself in the Pro Bowl during those old school games, and listening to what the commentators were saying about Peyton Manning. It was like his third or fourth season in the league. And so they did like an agility course for dogs. I'm sure you've seen those. But at the end of it, you had to like launch the football as far as you could off platform. And the commentators like, and here comes Peyton Manning, a relatively agile quarterback making his way through the course. And Peyton's dying of laughter. He's like, I think this is the only time someone called me agile my entire football career.
That was not what he was known for.
No. He had every other skill. That was not it.
There was a couple times in real play where he would tuck the ball and run, and every time you're just like, run! You're barely moving. Keep going. How are you?
It's like he runs like Woody from Toy Story. Just like
or his QB sneak once every 5 years, where you pretend to hand it off to the running back and bootleg around.
All right. So, we've got Pro Bowl stuff. I'm not going to guarantee that I'm even going to try and turn that on. I usually do what Brandon said. I catch a few things on YouTube clips. I'm like, oh, okay, that happened. But we do have some championship games that happened. And I was telling the guys before I started that it seems like this season has been the season of reverse psychology, anathema. Well, I don't know what you would call it, but like whatever I want to happen, the opposite happens. Has happened all year. Whoever I want to win does not win, it feels like.
I think it's a curse.
That held true this week, and Brandon was just trying to give me the blueprint for getting Kansas City to lose, which, spoiler alert, Kansas City won and they're in a Super Bowl. Anyway, he told me, you just need to say the Kansas City's going to win, and I can't do it. I can't, with good conscience, let that seep out of my soul and not taint me in some way. So we're going to have to, let's go back and look at those games though, before we go any further. And let's just start with the first one. It was the Commanders, Eagles, right?
Tough break for Washington. Oh my gosh. Just to be destroyed like that with no chance to breathe. I think America thought it would be closer. And it's 100% the fault of the Washington defense. I mean, on the very first play, you just hand Saquon the ball and then say, hey, we don't want to tackle you. You can go for 65 yards and a touchdown. That was a really strong opening by Philly, really poor execution by Washington, and they never really recovered after that. It was just beat down after beat down. I did like Washington, like they stuck to their guts. They're like the highest percentage team that goes for it on fourth down, regardless of how far it was.
Conversions.
It was impressive what they were able to do. Jaden Daniels still looked calm in the pocket the entire time. So kudos to him for not letting the game get in his head. They couldn't execute anything on defense. And as we all know, it's going to win you championships.
Did I feel like special teams messed up as well?
Yeah, there was a kickoff fumble. So at one point, even though Washington scores first, they're up 3-0, and then eventually it's 14-3. Philadelphia on top. However, Washington gets back to make it a 14-12 game, and they go for the 2-point conversion to try and tie it. Now that fails, but it's the end of the near the end of the first half. so you can kind of regroup, get some of that momentum at halftime. You just need to like make a stop, and then Jayden Daniels can do what Jayden Daniels does. However, the next time Jayden Daniels got to touch the football again, the score was 27-12 because the Eagles went down the field, they score a touchdown, and then on the ensuing kickoff is when that fumble happens. The Eagles recover it, score a touchdown, and then it's the end of the half, and the Commanders don't really have time to score. But I think they did get a field goal right before. Yeah, they did get a field goal right before halftime. So they made the most of that first half. But Philadelphia got the ball first in the second half, and then the fourth quarter was kind of just a bit of destruction on the part of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, tell you what, I think someone was telling me that the GM for the New York Giants, that there was a video of his son. And he was saying to his dad, "You need to draft Jayden Daniels, trade whatever you need to, and get him." And then he also said, "Don't trade Saquon Barkley." And I'm like, I feel like maybe the GM's son should have stepped up into his place, because that would have made a huge difference in New York. Just those two moves alone, they constantly are shaking their head and kicking themselves for letting Saquon go, and maybe not doing what they needed to draft. I don't know that they could have traded to get up to Jayden Daniels, but especially with Washington being there.
Going to number 2.
Yeah, Washington was very, very much ingrained, and they were going to select Jayden Daniels. So when the Vikings played the Eagles in the NFC Championship game, this was back in 2018, the score of that one was 38-7. It was a monster blowout. That was a 31-point loss. This loss was actually 32-point loss by the Washington Commanders, but it didn't feel like that 38-7 game because the Eagles kind of just ran away with it at the end. It was 34-23 at one point in that fourth quarter, and Washington was driving with the football past midfield, and then Austin Eckler fumbles the football. There were 3 fumbles at pivotal points in this game. The Eagles scored off of all of them, and none of it was Jayden Daniels' fault. They have a much better chance to win this game if people can just hold on to the football. I think it was Eckler won. It was McNichols on the kickoff, and there was one other fumble as well. I can't remember who, but it was just like a comedy of errors for Washington. The good news is that they're still a very good team, but I think they really need to invest in the defense this offseason, both in free agency and in the draft. Frankie Louvu had a really good game. He had a couple of good blitzes until he started jumping over the offensive line 6 times in a row.
Way, I love that was the longest second down in forever. I mean, just it went forever. And when he did it, did he do it 3 times?
I think so.
I feel like he did it 3.
Yeah, and that he did do it 3, and then there was another false. Another encroachment penalty by someone on the defensive line.
But I agree with. I think the commentators were saying, how can you call that the egregious thing where you can award points? Because, they're trying to hard count you, and you have to be ready because they're on the 1-inch line, and they do that tush push thing. So you've got to be ready to go. And they're trying to taunt you now by doing all these hard counts, and these guys are not trying to. And then so the whole the NFL saying we will if this happens again, we can award points.
That was not on my bingo card for the playoffs. Learning that the NFL or the refs could award points, and somehow Kansas City hasn't figured out how to get there yet.
Oh, they will. That'll happen next year. I think I saw all the memes of.
I think that'll happen
Patrick
next
Mahomes
week.
Doing the steepled fingers.
That was me as an angsty teenager playing Madden online and losing 34-0 in the second quarter. Continuing to annoy the person I was playing with penalty, just jumping across. We're not playing. Just kind of wanting them to quit. In Madden, there's no referee enforcement penalty, so it just keeps going and going and going. And that was the cheat code to get those kind of forfeit wins. But yeah, the defensive line for Washington was not good. They didn't contact the running back until he was 3 yards down the field. To put that into perspective, the best team this year that had their running back get downfield before getting touched, on average, was the Baltimore Ravens, and they got 2.3 yards per attempt before contact this season, while it was 3 yards attempt before contact for the Eagles against Washington. So that offensive line, they won in the trenches. They dominated on the offensive line. They dominated on the defensive line. Like Jaden Daniels and Frankie Louvu, I think, are the only two like really good parts of this. And then, I mean, Terry McLaurin did have the long touchdown, which was like a nice slant and run. That's like Scary Terry's like kind of go-to play. But they put Quinyon Mitchell on him after that, and Mitchell played more press, where typically he's been like a guy that plays off zone and will kind of just run the deep quarter part of the field. But they put him in press coverage against Terry McLaurin, and that kind of shut McLaurin down a little bit and really kind of negated anything Washington could do deeper down the field.
Yeah, it was a bit surprising to me. Obviously, as you can tell from all of this, I wanted the Commanders to win. I wanted to see a rookie take a team to a Super Bowl. I was all for my friend's team making it. So that didn't happen. But now, because of the result of the second game, I feel I'm going to be an Eagles fan, if anything, coming up, because let's talk about this second game. We have the classic rematch of the Bills versus the Kansas City Chiefs, which I did not want to happen in the first place. I didn't want the Kansas City Chiefs to be there. I wanted the Texans to win that and be Texans-Bills game. But I made the stupid call that I thought the Bills would like really just beat them, hard, 30-something to 17. I don't remember what I said now last week, but it was
large margin.
A large margin. I thought the Bills have the team. They've been able to run very well systematically against a lot of people, and Kansas City's not real good at stopping the run. This is going to be their game. Man. Josh, in I think his little prediction, set up this scenario where it would be really close, and then they would like pull out the win. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be too hard. And as it was coming in this game, I'm like, oh no, maybe he's right. But I guess if they win, that's okay. But no, it didn't happen. Let's talk about this game.
Yeah, a couple days after I made that prediction, I saw on social media that the Chiefs had dyed their fountains in front of their team facility red, and that's when I knew the
sacrifice.
Chiefs. Yep. It was a blood sacrifice, and that was they're doing some sort of blood magic, and they were going to win that game. But the Bills, like they hung in there. Unfortunately, 0-4 for Buffalo now has a different meaning than it did in the 90s when they were 0-4 in Super Bowls. Now they're 0-4 against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's just a heartbreaking time to be a Bills fan. And as a Minnesota Vikings fan, I feel like they are the fan base that has the most in common with us, because we also are 0-4 in Super Bowls before losing NFC championship games again and again and again. So we feel you, Buffalo, and I'm sorry that this happened to all of you up there in upper state New York.
So let's get to the two calls. Let's just go ahead and talk about them. The two calls that everybody keeps talking about with the Kansas City Chiefs and the refs. What are you guys' thoughts? I guess
you're talking the catch and then the fourth down run by Josh Allen.
Those
first down.
Are the two. So let's start with the catch, because I think that would happen first, right? Goes, throw down the field. Looks like it's intercepted. They go down together. The ball hits the ground. The ref somehow says it's a catch. It was watched in slow motion ad nauseum by everybody on the internet. Everybody, put the meme where, the hands weren't on the ball by the receiver. The ball hits the ground, and then he gets his other hand on there, and they're like, okay, let's just take the defender out. Would that have been a catch if no one else was there? No. What do you guys think of that play first?
I think if no one was there, that it might have actually been called a catch, because like there was like a transfer of possession that happened, but I think it shouldn't have been a catch, because it feels like there was like the defender got it first. It wasn't like the simultaneous act, and then Worthy pulled it away. But like
with one arm in the ground, though, his second arm didn't come till after the ground. He never had it.
he's taking it away, but he like I don't know. I feel like it hits the ground when that transfer is happening from defender so like the ground can, like they say, it can go to the ground if like it doesn't move, which it didn't, but it was because there were 3 hands on it, like all controlling it. It's because the Bills defender was the one that was preventing it from moving. So I like I don't know. I didn't feel like the calls for the Chiefs, well, except we'll get to the other one. I didn't feel like this one was as egregious as some of the ones from last week against Houston.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, you're going relative here. As egregious, yes, maybe.
From the perspective of the referee that called it a catch, I watched an analysis of this too. The ref was behind them and couldn't see the placement of the ball because he had 3 dudes in the way of seeing if the ball actually hit the ground. Called it a catch, called it Kansas City's ball, because at the time the ref got there, it looked like both parties had possession, right? And there's a very famous play that happened that Packers fans don't like to think about, where if a defender and the offensive player both catch the ball and you go down, the default goes to the offense.
Could this have been in Seattle, maybe?
Yeah, and Tramon Williams, love the man. Very biased in my perspective. It was an interception. Everyone else is against that. Golden Tate caught the ball, but
I would say I would say that was an intercept. Like I would say it was the replacement ref's fault that was because Williams was there.
And so from the perspective of just what I've been hurt from in the past, I think it is the right call to default to the offensive player in split possession. The NFL is an offensive league. It's just what's going to happen. As much as I don't want that to happen, right? Because it was the Packers defender that had possession of the ball, so it would have benefited me more. I do think it was the right call, although controversial, right? And I think a little bit of it got into the thing of everyone had their eyes so hard on the refs, just looking for extra reasons, right?
Well,
because we've been talking about it all season.
I think it was the ground. And I don't think they had equal possession when it hit the ground. And then I think that's what comes in and makes people begin to question it, because even though you said like the ref couldn't see it well because it was, he was behind and by the time he got there, but now they are using that quick, video, call from New York. They looked at it and decided that was like dual controlled, which I still don't believe it was. I don't. But I agree that was a harder call to change than maybe the next one. And yeah.
Well, just one more point on this last one is I think at a higher plane, it is kind of deserved in the way that the Yankees over the Red Sox was deserved for over a decade or over a century because of the Babe Ruth trade. In this instance, it was Buffalo who gave Xavier Worthy to the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was Xavier Worthy coming down with that. I tweeted at the time, the Buffalo Bills just gave Patrick Mahomes his Randy Moss. He wasn't quite that, but he is starting to become a very, very good receiver during this playoff race, a lot like Rashee Rice from last season. So the in an ethereal sense, like, I don't know, kind of like balanced out a little bit there.
So let's move on to the second controversial call, the fourth down, where Josh Allen runs with the ball, gets in the middle of that mob. 2 refs come in from opposite sides. One clearly past the line, one clearly not to the line. They converge on not to the line. And everybody looked at every replay. The refs looked at every replay and the spotting of the ball and still decided it was short. What do you think of that one?
I have since come to believe that was the wrong call. It was a first down. And out of transparency, I don't know exactly how the refs are looking at it, which angles they're looking at. The angle I saw put back out there on X was someone hard put in a line on the video of where the first down was. And you can clearly see Josh Allen and the ball go past that just a little bit, which is a first down. And so I don't know if the refs or the box puts that line there or if they're eyeballing it still. The technology is good enough to put a line there. The cameras are steady enough to put a line there.
Well,
That would
this
make
is
it a
where
little
you-
bit easier.
This is
Right?
where you get into the future, and everybody's like, this is the thing that's going to push it to a chip in the ball that tells us exactly where that ball got to, and not relying on a ref's eye and angle.
Yeah, and we like we already have microchips on players. Like Amazon uses all of that next gen stat stuff.
We even have them in the balls. They're just not using it.
Yeah. So it seems like a easy fix. I mean, relatively easy. I would not know how to make all that go, but for the experts in the field, it feels like an easy fix to kind of work through. I think he got it as well, and I don't think it. I think it was like fairly obvious. Even like Gene Steratore in the booth said, "Yeah, I think he got it." For me, I think the play before, when Dalton Kincaid caught the ball and then dove ahead and stuck the ball out, I think he got the first down there as well. Like his knee wasn't down, his elbow wasn't down, and the ball's going down right at with half the ball past the yellow line. I thought that was a bad spot, and I think replay assist would have turned it over and given the Bills the first down, except when they went for it on fourth down, they were going no huddle. They were going quick to the line to try and, get the Chiefs out of position. And so there was no time for replay assist to step in and say, oh no, the Bills actually got the first down. I think if they would have waited, like if they would have just gone with their huddle and go out into the quarterback sneak, I think they might have gotten the first down just via the replay assist there.
But they didn't get it with the replay assist on the Josh Allen.
Yeah, on the next one. And then Kansas City, they get the ball, they score. The Bills do take the lead, they do tie the game on the next possession. But it certainly did its damage. It gave Patrick Mahomes a shorter field to work with to try and take the lead, and that's exactly what Patrick Mahomes did.
Yeah, and to your point, Matthew, with the chips are in the balls, operating this, I don't think it would be relatively difficult or expensive in terms of what these teams actually make to go through and put that technology in, similar to what they do in every major tennis tournament with their eagle eye to determine if the ball is out or if it's not. The difference there, and I see this comparison a lot, in the tennis software, it will already know where the ball is going to land based on every condition possible before the ball lands there. So it calls it early, which frustrates a lot of people in the tennis world. In the NFL, it's relatively simple enough to say, hey, this is the spot of the ball. It should be right here. And you can even put sensors underneath the turf or in some of these grass to say, hey, the ball is not where it's supposed to be. It needs to go and you can have whatever margin of error is deemed appropriate by the NFL. 2 inches right or left, not going to make a difference, right? Half a yard forward, backwards, it's going to make a big difference. And so establishing that margin of error is going to be really important because those few inches is going to be whatever the center adjusts the ball to when they go down and hold the ball. They move it out just a little bit to get set. It's going to happen. But I like the idea of incorporating the technology. We have it. I don't think it would be overly egregious to do so. I know they were testing out some stuff in the preseason for it. I never went back and figured out how that worked for them. If they're planning for it for 5 years from now, if they liked it or whatnot.
I think the thing that's going to push this faster than it would have gone, I think in the past, there was a certain element of, hey, you play the game and the ref on the field is seeing it and you kind of go with that. I remember, it's like in real time, this is, too hard to tell, but you go with that. Well, the difference is betting is now legal. And huge sums of money are being bet by very powerful people. And that's why I think refs are coming under more and more and more scrutiny, aside from the fact that we have such high definition, everything that we can, it used to be the play happened and the replay was still kind of blurry and there weren't that many camera angles. And you could, if it was really egregious, you could tell. But for most of those, you had no idea. You just had to go with what the ref called. Now, man, they have so many angles. They can replay it so slow and it's still so clear. And you can see exactly where everything hits and rewind it and then just get that exact spot, and there's technology with sensors and stuff. And suddenly there's all this money and power involved. It's going to change. It's going to change.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could probably change some of these stadiums just with the ridiculous fines that the NFL charges to players for no reason, right?
Right. They won't call a flag on the field, but they'll fine them $45,000 during the week for the same thing. It's like, what?
Yeah. And yet, despite all of this, the Buffalo Bills fans got what they wanted with 3 minutes left, which is Josh Allen with the football, with the chance to go and win the game against the Kansas City Chiefs and try and exercise all of those demons. And in the end, it just wasn't able to happen. And I don't necessarily think that is completely blameworthy for Josh Allen. I think a lot of that was Steve Spagnuolo kind of messing with his timing and everything and doing what Steve Spagnuolo does best and just mixing up the blitzes. The Chiefs only blitzed in this game 3 times in the first 3 quarters, and they blitzed 4 times in the fourth quarter alone, including on the last 2 plays. And the first blitz, they came to the basically just flooded the line like they did against the Texans when we talked about last week, kind of the maestro against CJ Stroud in that third quarter. They flooded the line. They bring everyone in. Allen is able to get the screen out to Amari Cooper. When last week, after the Chiefs did that, or after the Chiefs did that to the Texans weren't able to respond, and the Chiefs just did the exact same blitz again. Allen got that look from the Chiefs and was like, okay, they're just going to do this like same thing again. I think I'm going to roll over to, like, he rolled out to his right, except nobody came from the left. And the offensive line had kind of slid a little bit over to that left side. And there were 2 guys to block 4 coming for the Kansas City Chiefs. And it just happened to be because Allen thought the blitz was coming from the opposite side that he was rolling right into the teeth of the blitz. And he made still a really good throw. But for the second week in a row now, we're talking about a tight end not able to come up with it. Now, the degree of difficulty of this catch was a little bit higher than the one Mark Andrews had in the divisional round, but still, it is like, if you watch the end zone camera has like circulated on Twitter, like Dalton Kincaid is the only guy in the shot looking like he is the center fielder of the New York Yankees trying to bring down the game-winning pop fly in game 4 of the World Series. Like, he's there, he's just ready for it. But he kind of like didn't adjust himself to get to a perfect spot so that he didn't have to dive at the last second. So he dives at the last second, it hits his arms, and it goes incomplete.
Yeah. And then the pain of watching the Kansas City Chiefs win, having to deal with more Taylor Swift shots, having to deal with Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes truly embracing the villain that they are. And now we've got a Super Bowl that really most of America did not want to see. It's all I see on Twitter and Reddit. It's like, I don't even think I'm going to watch a Super Bowl. And I think I was saying earlier, if I didn't have a college group of people that we plan a Super Bowl party for, I probably would still watch it. But man, it's really tempting not to.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's run out this scenario. I know we're not going to get into the game until next week, right? So let's run a post-game scenario. If Kansas City wins, let's say that, who on that team retires a champion?
I hope everybody, but probably
Travis Kelce,
just Travis,
most likely, because he's what, 35 now? He's older for a tight end.
Yeah, he still had like a 90 catch season, but it was a weird 90 catch season where he was getting like it was like 7 yards per catch, like, which was like, if you get 90 catches and like 700 yards, which is like unheard of unless you're like Troy Brown with the 2001 Patriots.
Yeah, he's 35. I guess the speculation might be that if they win, he proposes to Taylor on the field and then retires in the post-game press conference.
which
Possibility,
is
right?
it's
That
just
would be a happy
stealing.
ending for him.
It's stealing from the Boise State running back that did that in that bowl game like back 15 years ago.
Yeah, just on a
Ian
bigger
Johnson,
level.
on a bigger level. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, gets engaged to Taylor Swift, retires, and then we never have to hear him again unless they get divorced and Taylor writes a song about it, right?
Oh well, we still got the Twin Heights podcast. You know that you'll hear all about that. That's
Oh yeah,
winning all the podcast awards and everything. So you'll never stop hearing about the Kelsey brothers, and then Jason's on
they'll
ESPN.
soon be second to us. They'll
Yes,
soon be second to us.
Soon. Oh man. So who else? You said Travis Kelce. You were like going through this list of
Travis
so far
Kelce.
one. I think Andy Reid's out.
Andy Reid retiring after a three-peat. That seems like a good Andy Reid move. Maybe I would love to see Andy Reid in a booth talking football. I think that would just be so much fun having him up there.
Bill Belichick won so many, and everybody kept thinking after every one he would retire, but he had this insatiable desire to win yet another one. You don't think Andy Reid's that?
If they win this one, then Reid has 4 titles, and he's only 2 behind Bill Belichick for most Super Bowl titles of all time. I don't know how far he is behind like Vince Lombardi for most NFL championships and all that pre-Super Bowl stuff.
But he has 7 Vince Lombardi NFL championships.
But Andy Reid has Patrick Mahomes and the refs. How can you lose?
Yeah, I'm not.
So did Bill Belichick. Except it was Tom Brady and the refs. He didn't have Mahomes.
But Belichick didn't leave until he no longer had Tom Brady and thus no longer had the ref. So I think Andy Reid is gonna stick around as long as he can kind of like reap the benefits of having this superstar quarterback. I mean, it's
and like, they've proven they can do it without Travis Kelce. It's not like Travis Kelce leaving is going to change that, because in the first part of this year, Travis Kelce wasn't doing much of anything. I mean, he was there. Maybe he drew some attention, but they seem to do fine without him.
All right. So I pull up their roster here. Here's another possibility. Carson Wentz, backup quarterback.
Wait. Are you saying he might retire? Or are you saying he would take over for Patrick? What are we saying here?
Retired. We're on the retirement story.
Well, why would he retire? He's still making money doing like absolutely nothing.
Yeah. I would say if like Patrick Mahomes comes down very, very ill and like literally can't play, it would be kind of karma for Carson Wentz, who had his MVP season in 2017 snatched from him because of injury, and his team going on to win the Super Bowl. It would be very fitting for Wentz now to be the guy that takes over for the big quarterback and to also beat his biggest or his whole team on the biggest stage. That would be like, like we talked about how we know the NFL is just a reality WWE TV show. That would be one of the ways to confirm that further, is if Carson Wentz somehow gets into this game, makes a pivotal play against the Eagles, and they win this Super Bowl.
Just a question. Nick Foles winning and the Eagles winning Super Bowl, was that their first Super Bowl?
First and only, first win at least.
So this could be their second win if they win. But like I was like watching that championship game, and Nick Foles was the one presenting, the trophy at the end there to the team, and I'm like, man, Carson Wentz, nobody even thinks about that guy in Philadelphia. He was like the guy. Foles comes in, does what he does, wins that Super Bowl, leaves, goes to the Bears, goes to the Colts, but he is always Philadelphia's boy because he won the one and only Super Bowl they have, and he is presenting the trophy, and Wentz is like over here back up on a team. I don't know, maybe he'll get his chance, but I doubt it.
D-Hop, DeAndre Hopkins, 12th year in the league. He's played a while. Wins a Super Bowl, retire, stay another year. What do we think?
Do you think he's done a lot to make this team win?
No.
No, he had a couple good games early on.
Again, I think Andy Reid with Patrick Mahomes and the other weapons they have still feel pretty confident. I don't think, D-Hop might, Kelce might.
But, I mean, even then, you're getting Rashee Rice back next season, and you're going to have a full season of Hollywood Brown. He played the role of Xavier Worthy in this game against the Bills by being the guy that continued to run those deep routes instead of Worthy. So that allowed Worthy to do all the underneath stuff and allowed him to have a big game in which he had a touchdown. So, I mean, you have Brown doing that. You have Worthy and Rice being those intermediate and short guys, with Worthy having the deep play potential. And like you're back to being another explosive offense. And oh, guess who wants out of Miami? And maybe the Chiefs are interested in bringing him back is Tyreek Hill. I feel like so many players on this team could retire, and it would just be a retool year for the Kansas City Chiefs, and they would still be the Super Bowl favorites.
If they win this year and they end up even close to it next year,
Matthew gives up. That's
it's going to be it's going to be really hard to stay on the football field.
Yeah.
Oh man. So we have the Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs coming up. We're going to preview that game more as we get close. We're going to talk about all the storylines, but I can tell you guys, I'm going to give you a big spoiler. You didn't see this coming. I'm going to be an Eagles fan for the next 2 weeks. And oh my goodness, I can't even believe Josh just opened his jacket and there's a Kansas City Chiefs shirt underneath, and he's proudly displaying it. I think we're going back to 2 hosts on this show.
In the words of,
why do you even have that shirt? I thought you were a Vikings fan.
I get every Super Bowl, I get a shirt of the team that I'm cheering for. So in 2019,
you're cheering for the Chiefs.
I'm cheering for the Chiefs. In the words of the dude from the Big Lebowski, I hate the Eagles, man. I hate the Eagles, man. So,
oh man,
I cannot stand the fans of Philadelphia and all
you
of
can
their...
stand the fans from Kansas City.
I can. The fans from Kansas City are more. There is so much vitriol in the Eagles, parking lots and everything. And then there's that Packers fan at the game that was being like verbally assaulted by a guy in the stands there. And that's
but
that
don't
was
forget,
just caught on camera. It happens all the time.
But don't forget, every single game, there's people being abused all over the world by all the Taylor Swift fans who don't even know what football is, who are like yelling at people about how they're so stupid because Travis Kelce is dating Taylor Swift.
That's true.
Stand that?
I can stand that. I cannot stand the Eagles and their fans climbing up light poles and pushing over cars and then also like every time like they make it like, I get that it's part of the game to like have somewhat of an intimidating atmosphere, but not an atmosphere where you should be fearing for your physical safety like a lot of the times it can be at Philadelphia. And I cannot like nothing against the players.
It is the only stadium with a jail inside, Lincoln Financial. So I see your point, Josh.
I find no joy in it, but it is for me. I mean, even though the Chiefs are using blood magic, it is cheering for the lesser of the 2 evils, I guess.
Well, lesser. That's an opinion.
Yeah,
that's an opinion.
Oh.
And I also don't like. I don't like Nick Sirianni too. So like,
oh man, Nick Sirianni was a Colts offensive coordinator. I like him. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I do like Andy Reid over Nick Sirianni. I will be honest about that. Former, quarterback coach for the Green Bay Packers.
I haven't had to watch 1,000 Nick Sirianni commercials. I'm
Uncle Ruski.
I find myself getting tired of both Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. I can't stand it. I just told Josh, I opened NFL.com to just check on headlines, and all I saw was Patrick Mahomes' face in like 4 squares. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's that time of year where I have to look at his stupid face all the time. Sorry, Patrick.
I understand that. I respect a lot of these people, and I mentioned this, it was last week or 2 weeks ago. Like, if I see one more Peyton Manning nationwide commercial, like, I like Peyton. I can't with those nationwide commercials. And it's the same thing. State Farm and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. I get it. I understand. I understand what you're talking about, Matthew.
So there's going to be some back and forth here on the podcast next week. Join us because we're not done right now, but join us because it's going to be fun watching Matthew and Josh and Brandon kind of going back and forth in the middle, trying to placate us both. It's going to be good times.
Wait, Brandon, did you reveal your rooting interest, or are you saving that for next week?
I'll do either one. You tell me. You want it next week or you want it now?
Oh, I thought you meant I'll root for either one. You tell me.
This would be a very balanced podcast, if that was the case. You'd get the least amount of bias because you'd have one on one side of the aisle, the other on the other, and then one right up the middle.
Right.
I gotta stick with my guns. Everyone knows I'm a Packers fan. I'm not buying a t-shirt for whoever's playing. Just putting that out there. I will only wear Packers apparel unless a team pays me an ungodly amount of money to work for their organization. That's the only way. And it'll never be Chicago, Minnesota, or Detroit. There is not enough money to put me in any of those things. But I will say there is a storyline in here that I think is the lesser of two evils for my favorite to win the game. I'm not a fan of either team going through. Andy Reid is my favorite for Kansas City. He would be the reason I wanted them to win as a former Packers coach. But there's a player where I just think his character is phenomenal, and I've seen it. He got signed with Philly this offseason. I want this for Saquon Barkley.
That's what I
just do.
Say. Yeah.
I watched a clip of him the other day, and it made me love him even more. His coordinator came over to him. He said, "Hey, it's end of the third quarter. We don't need you to play anymore, but you're 13 yards away from like your all-time rushing record in a single game." He said, "No, put the other guys in. Like, I don't need that record. I want to go and support my teammates." Very counterintuitive to the city of Philadelphia. Just throwing out that I know that's not the same, but I like the character he has. I know he's not had a great time while he was in New York, and I just want Saquon to have one. So I'm going fly, Eagles, fly.
Fly, Eagles. My son has always, I gave my son
Green
the choice
Eagles.
to root for whoever he wants. And he chose two teams, both of which were not my favorite, but he chose the Green Eagles and the Steelers. And I'm like, now he roots for the Colts when the Colts are playing, but like those are the two teams he will kind of call it. He calls them the Green Eagles. And so we got to root for the Green Eagles. I told him, I said, this last week of football was the worst. No team I wanted to win is in, and it's going to be the Eagles versus the Kansas City. He's like, yeah, go Green Eagles. And I'm like, all right. All right.
So we know Taylor Swift is going to be there. We know it's going to be a who's who of people that are going to be there. Brandon, does the NFL invite all of you owners to the game to watch? Or?
They do, but you have to pay for it, and so I have opted out. I have opted out of the owner's suite, as did 99.99% of Packers owners. And so most of us will not be going. Mark Murphy will be there as my representative. The Packers are paying for his experience there, so he can go enjoy that before he retires this summer. Have fun, Mark Murphy. Brian Gutekunst usually goes to those things too, and so I imagine he'll be there. I think LaFleur's probably on vacation. He'll watch the TV version.
Like us.
Yeah, like us peasants.
Like us peasants. So that's coming up. Is there, since we're trying not to get too hard into that game, is there anything else we want to talk about before we finish up here today? We're looking for those big. We're not really too excited about the Pro Bowl. We may mention something about. Does that happen this Sunday?
Yeah,
the second.
I
have a board meeting this Sunday, so I know I'm not going to watch it live. But
the skills competition starts today. It might be going on right now, but it gets underway today, and you can probably tune into one of the sports channels, and I don't know which one, but one of them, and watch it.
One of them's got it. So maybe we'll mention a few, if anything stands out from that. If anybody sees it and notices it stands out, we might mention that. But we're going to be talking Super Bowl stuff next time. You don't want to miss it. So thanks for joining us today on the Football Fandemic. Join us next week. We're going to talk about Green Eagles versus Kansas City Chiefs. All that and more here on the Football Fandemic. Thanks for joining us.